Hey, what's going on, guys? It's your boy The Juice. Today I'm changing it up from unboxing to do what's in my camera bag video. Um, this series, as I'm gonna call it, is gonna be broken down into various parts. For this one here, I'm gonna focus on my gears, and then every other additional video would be broken down based on the type of shoot I will be doing. So for example, if I'm going to be doing an event photography event shooting, I will do a what's in my camera bag and show you the gears that I would use for that particular shoot. Okay, so for you guys who've been following my channel, should be somewhat familiar with most of my gear. I did a what's in my camera bag, I think, if not last year, the year before. But since then, my gears has changed considerably, especially within the last 6 months. Without any further ado, I'm gonna just jump right into it. Now I'm gonna start with the more excited one, and then I'm gonna work my way over to, I won't say the boring, but stuff that I had from before. So again, for those of you who've been following my channel, know that I've been slowly upgrading my gears. I won't call it a switch, but I've upgraded. I'm originally a Canon shooter, and I'm still am a Canon shooter, but I also shoot Sony. I love the Sony cameras. It makes shooting so much more easier. In some cases, it makes me a little lazier, but you know, it is what it is. Anyways, so for my main body when I'm shooting Sony, well, first of all, I use the Pelican 1610 cases. I have two of them that I use for my gear, and I have a 1635, which I might get to in another video. But anyways, back to the camera. For my main camera body when I'm using a Sony, I use the A7R III. I love this camera. It has 42 megapixels. That gives me so much working space to work with in terms of resolution. I know some people don't like working with big files, but I don't mind it. My computer could handle it, so it's not really much of a bother for me. My backup camera is a Sony A7III. Now I love this camera, not as much as I like the R3, but this here does the job just as good, just doesn't have the high megapixel count. So again, that's my backup camera. Oops. I'm shooting this on my iPhone with the Osmo Mobile 2 gimbal, so bear with me a bit. So next we have the Metabone camera adapter for Canon lenses. I have that as well as the Sigma. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I'm originally a Canon shooter, so I have a lot of Canon glasses. So I like adapting lenses if and when I have to. So you'll see my Canon lenses later on. Next I have the Sony 85 1.8. This was one of the first lenses I bought. I liked it, but it was a bit too sharp for me for portraiture. So I upgraded since. And I upgraded to my favorite lens, which I'll jump to the back. My 1.4 Sigma 85 G Master. Now this here is perfect, especially when paired with the A7R III with that high megapixel count. This here gives me, oh my gosh, makes my life a lot easier, especially with the new eye out of focus update that came through. I did a photo shoot last weekend, and oh, man, the client really loved the output. So again, that's my favorite lens when it comes to Sony. So let me jump back to the front. But before I jump to the front, you'll notice that I had my 85 at the bottom of the case. I do that mainly because this case I tend to carry as opposed to roll. So I don't really have to worry about, you know, my expensive lens shaking and vibrating at the bottom. I never roll this camera case. so I could put my stuff wherever I need to without worrying. So the next lens is the Sony 24-70 G Master 2.8. I love this lens as well, not as much as the 85. I tend to use this when I'm just taking random pictures, especially of my son and what's not. It's a very versatile lens, and I don't mind having it on my camera most of the time. And well, this isn't a lens obviously, but this is almost as important. Help me blow off dust and any other particles that's on my lenses or on my camera. Next lens is this powerhouse, which is a 70-200 2.8 G Master lens. I love this lens. It's pretty heavy, but it gets the job done, especially for portraiture. When you extend it to 200 millimeter and you get that compression, your photo really looks good, especially again when paired with the R3. I really like the quality of that. In this compartment I have the 50, I think 1.8. Yeah, this was again one of the first lenses I bought for the Sony System. I tend not to use this much. I would use it for video if and when I am using one of those cameras to do video. But I'm not a big fan of it. I may sell it, I'm not sure. See how that goes. And then up in this corner, I use a Yongnuo, or the Godox I should say, flash. So this is the trigger, and then the actual flash I think is the 360 or the 350, TT 350. Pretty basic and cheap. This here is my camera strap. I use the Reddit or whatever you call it. I'll have links to these things at the bottom. But I like the strap because it has this section here that screws into the bottom of the camera, and then it allows the camera to kind of hang. And there's a lot to make sure that it doesn't be, so the camera won't be swinging left, right, and center and knocking into all kind of stuff. So it has that protection. You'll notice that I'm using the Trek system for this Pelican case. I would recommend this to anyone. It's a bit pricey, yes, but it really helps you to maximize space in your case. So if you have a lot of gear and you have the 1610 or any Pelican case for that matter, I highly recommend organizing it with the Trek system. Okay, in this front section, I just have the charger that came with my camera. I don't really use it. I tend to prefer charging my phone via USB-C. And of course, I have the standard cable, well, one of the cables that came with the phone, with the camera. I use this especially when I have to do a software update. So essentially, that's my Sony system. Now I'm gonna switch over to the Canon system, which I still use a lot. As you can see, I have a lot of glass, almost, well, way more than Sony, but I tend to use every last one of them. I like using Canon. It requires more work compared to Sony, but it's very reliable. And if I'm going out in the environment or in the elements on the beach, or if it's like a rainy day, I definitely will grab my Canon as opposed to my Sony. I just don't trust Sony to that point as yet. So I like having my Canon as a backup altogether. I always have these two on location if I'm doing a big shoot, because again, I just don't have that trust for Sony as much as I like it. They're just not that reliable in my opinion as yet. That may change in the next few months, but who knows. So my main camera for Canon is a 5D Mark III. They say it's Old Faithful. I had this for a few years, good. Did plenty of shoots with them. Well, with it, I have the grip on it. Allows me to store 2 batteries, and so I don't have to worry about battery power and what's not. So I still believe in my Canon, especially this 5D Mark III. I would recommend it to anyone, especially if you're not into video. well, 4K video that is. Okay, for my backup camera, I use the Canon 60, the version 1. Now, I mean, I like this camera. I'm not a big fan of it. If I have to use it, I use it. But this here was given to me as a gift, so I can't really sell it or get rid of it. Canon, I have the 70-200 f2.8 version 2. I don't see the sense in getting version 3. Version 2 does just as good of a job, if you ask me. Another lens that I have would be the 24-70 f2.8 version 2. I tend to use that camera a lot. Now this one here is the 135 f2. Now that there I use a lot for portraitures. It gives me that milky bokeh and that proper separation between the subject and the background. I really love that camera. I mean, I really love that lens. Only problem I have with it is the distance that I have to stand to really get a proper shot, especially if I'm going or I'm doing the full body shots with it. I tend to have to stand a bit too far, but it is what it is. I have the 100 macro. I tend to use this for portraiture as well too. And then the last lens that I have in this case is the Nifty 50. Well, not really the Nifty 50, but this is the 1.4 50 lens. Where does it say? Somewhere around there. But anyways, it's a 1.4. Yep, look at right there. 1.4 50mm lens. And then two lenses that I have that can't fit in that case, but I tend to have it on my shelf. The first one is the 16-35mm f.4. This is version 2 or 3, I think it is, with the image stabilization. I use that for environmental shots when I'm doing environmental portraiture and what's not. I tend to use that. And then I have the Sigma 85. Now, I love this lens as well too. 1.4. It's pretty big, it's pretty heavy, but it gives me some nice smooth shots. For flashes, I use a Yongnuo, the 560 version 3. I have 2 of those, and I have the trigger somewhere around, probably not in this case, but again, I don't really shoot much flash photography, but when I do, I like to have the tools to help me get the job done. And last but not least, I have battery chargers for the batteries for my 2 Canon cameras. And of course, up here I have 4 batteries. Tend to just leave 2 in each camera, which, as I said earlier, that does the job. So there it is in a nutshell. That's my Canon lenses and my Canon cameras, or should I just say my Canon system. And then on this side, I have my Sony system. Now, which one I prefer? I mean, my heart belongs to Canon, but again, my Sony tend to make life a lot easier for me. So once you're making my life easier, I tend to like you a lot. Now, I've invested so much in both systems at this point. I don't see myself switching to anyone in particular, because I'm not a big fan of selling gears. So I'll stick with them to the end of time. So hopefully Canon get their game up. But then again, even if they get their game up, I can't see myself buying another camera for the next 5 years. I hope. I suffer from serious gear acquisition syndrome. So I tend to stay away from YouTube as much as I can. And I tend to stay away from B&H and Amazon, because it's so easy to get trapped I think as a photographer, you buy what you need. Again, it doesn't make sense buying the latest gears if it's not helping your business or what you're trying to do. So don't be in a rush to buy the latest and greatest. Sometimes the most basic equipment helps you get the best shots once you know what you're doing. But anyways, I'm starting to ramble off now. So again, this was my What's in My Camera Bag 2019 edition. If you have any questions, leave it in the comment section. If you like this video, hit that subscribe button and that like button. It's welcome. So stay tuned for part 2, 3, 4, however many it takes for me to show you what I shoot and the types of bags I use when I have a particular type of shoot to conclude or to do. So until next time, peace.